Welcome into the Layup Line. My name is Andrew Forrest, just past 6 o'clock, Mondays 6 to 7. There'll be a little bit of an extended version of the Layup Line tonight. As you heard earlier on, the Clinton girls regional girls basketball game will be following my show at 7:30-ish. And I'll run right up until that. Give you the pregame will be by Larry Dooling, but the pre-pregame will be by me, Andrew Forrest. And it's going to be focused on college basketball. First off, let's do a recap of last weekend. And, oh my goodness. If you're an Illini fan, if you know an Illini fan, you know what happened. Don't really want to talk about it, but I think that I have to, So I'm going to give you my 10 thoughts of the game, 10 little tidbits of what I saw at the game. Not necessarily all sports related. Some of them are just observations of people in the crowd. But it's 10 things that I'm guessing I saw that other people might not have. So I'm hoping that you'll draw something new from this, even though we probably want to forget it as quickly as possible. Number one, 4 recruits walk into the assembly hall. I'm sitting on the floor, which is a privilege I am very fortunate to have, and I appreciate it every time I get to use it. Walking onto the floor, 4 recruits. They walk in at a really dead time late in the first half, and they're all dressed in sweatshirts, hoodies, just like high school kids are wont to do. And one of them has a Duke sweatshirt on. Can you imagine the gall, the tenacity of such a who does that? He walks into the assembly hall with a Duke sweatshirt on. This kid is being recruited by Illinois. Now, obviously, there's some jeering from the fans sitting around him, and they're like good-natured, ha ha ha, some jabs to his side. But honestly, have some respect for the school that brought you in. You're watching a free basketball game, and you're going to wear a Duke sweatshirt. Slap in the face. I can't imagine. All right, that's my first one. Second one, he sat on the floor, by the way. He's on the floor in a Duke sweatshirt. I don't want to talk about it. Number 2, Sean Pruitt and Augie. Amazing early on in the game. I thought they looked tremendous. All season long, I've been complaining about how even though they're winning, the Illini aren't getting the ball inside. They're not getting the ball inside to Sean Pruitt, James Augustine, Marcus Arnold. Even Warren Carter can do some things down there, but they weren't getting the ball inside. This game, points in the paint were amazing in the first half against the 2-3 zone, no less. 2-3 zones typically guard the interior, and you even heard in the postgame, if you happen to catch any of Ed DeChellis' comments, that the 2-3 zone they run all year long is designed to stop the interior scoring because they're a shorter team. I thought Pruitt and Augie looked amazing, and I really think that's going to be, more than anything, something to draw from this game in a positive aspect. Third thing, predicted keys to the 2005-2006 success before the year by experts and me, because I'm not really an expert. D's transition to the point guard. That was thought to be very important, and it has been. Augie asserting himself. Kind of a timid person, really nice guy. Some people say overly nice. Well, him asserting himself was a key to the season. Randall's emergence. Everyone knew Brian Randall had some athletic ability, and he's shown that. Could he emerge as the third scorer and really a star of the future that I think he can be? So those are 3 keys people thought before the season. Experts, fans, the coach even mentioned those were big things. In my opinion, maybe the biggest key, and we probably all overlooked it at this previous times, but now I think it's becoming pretty obvious, Rich McBride. How important are his shots from the outside? Because D can hit some outside threes, don't get me wrong, his shot is amazing, but people are keying on D Brown, and for good reason. The guy's a stud. He's probably a top 10 player in the country. But Rich McBride hitting threes from the outside makes this team very, very similar, eerily similar to last year's team with the guards outside able to hit from anywhere, Darren, Luther, and also McBride to an extent, but D. You have those guards outside, the passing outside, it was beautiful basketball. This last game, Penn State game, first half, they looked gorgeous. I mean, Jamar's passing in and out. The passes were going into the interior, which is something we weren't doing earlier in the year. And McBride hitting from the outside is really, really enabling Pruitt to get off inside. So that's 3 of the 10. Other thoughts on the Big Ten, Penn State-Illinois game. This is so hard to talk about. I tried my hardest to forget that game Saturday. Sunday, I watched the Steelers game and thought, you know what? I'm just going to put that game out of my mind. And it's still, 2 days later, feels like someone took a spoon and spooned my guts out and just said, you know what? We don't really care that you have a heart. You have a soul. That game hurt so much. I can't even fathom how the players go through it. After the game, D Brown looked just despondent. I've never seen him. If you've seen him on TV, you've heard him on the radio, you've read his quotes in the paper, D Brown is easily the most energetic and the most affable interview you will ever see on a media standpoint. Just great with the media. And not only that, he's great with people. Around kids when he goes to their outings, when they go to schools, hospitals, read to people. He's just amazing person. Great people skills, right? He looked horrible. I have never seen his face look so long. I've never seen him look so sad. And his questions that he was getting at the press conference, usually he answers with these really fluid, elaborate answers. His answers were horrible. They were, just got to get better. That's it. That's all he said. That's all D had to say. And I don't blame him. The guy came back for senior season, whether it be because of injury or because he wanted to help Illinois win. And this is his team, and everyone knows it. And they just lost an embarrassing game to Penn State. And I don't blame D for being upset. I think he, more than anyone on that team, is taking this loss the hardest right now. 4th of the 10 points I had on the Illini game. Interior passing was much, much better. Much better. And I really like to see that, as Augie and Pruitt in the first half had 5 assists between the two of them. That's something, I don't think they had 5 assists combined all year. And they just passed really well between each other, and that was really nice to see. This is the hardest one to say, but I think it's obvious. Penn State players, they play like no one told them they're supposed to be the doormat of the Big Ten. This is Penn State basketball. Tell me the last time you remember Penn State basketball meaning anything. I don't think there was a last time. They're terrible. And they are, according to Ed DeChellis, their coach, quote, "We are a very resilient team." And maybe that's because we're young and don't know any better, but he's, in quotes, he says that they're just a team that doesn't give up. And it's been obvious all year. Michigan State, they played tight. They played close against other teams that you thought they were not even belonging on the same court with. So there's 5. 6, Brian Randall is still not taking a three-point shot that I thought was going in when it left his hands. I don't know what it is about his shot. It's disgusting from three-point land. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Brian Randall fan, but his shot is just atrocious. I don't know if they're ever going to fix that, but I guess if he decides to keep it consistently gross, maybe he'll develop some skills from the outside. But his three-point shot right now is not where it needs to be if he's going to become an elite player in the Big Ten. Interesting people I saw on hand. You might have caught this on TV, radio, or even heard about it from a friend, but Jim Tomei was there. They interviewed him at the halftime on the radio, but Jim Tomei was there in a Illini orange. Interesting to see. As you know, he's a White Sox now. Lucas Johnson was there, sporting the goatee. Got a little FaceTime on the overhead projector. Ron Zook was there, of course, trying to do his best to enhance his community relations. Coming off a great week, as you heard on the main event with Scott and Sam, obviously talking about his recruits he brought in this week and will have in the future. So Ron Zook getting some FaceTime out there at the Assembly Hall. Gail Fisher was in the building. I don't know if you know her. She's everything Chicago sports. I mean, she was on Sports Channel in the day with the Bulls, awesome Bulls. She was also on WGN. She's been on Comcast, Chicago TV. She's the sports girl in Chicago TV. So it was fun to see her, and I actually got a chance to converse a little bit about the game. And for some reason, the media people took it really hard as well. Just, you're supposed to be impartial, but the media people, personnel, myself included, took it very, very hard, that loss to Penn State, of which we all thought was not really going to happen. 3 more points on the Illini game, then I'll get to what is today's show. It's West Coast teams from the West Coast conferences, any conference from the Mountain West, any conference on the West Coast Pacific time. Talking with a couple of guys about that as well. But 3 more points on the Illini game. 2 possessions under 1 minute. If you think back, D. Brown, with 35 seconds on the shot clock, their plays were pass it around, pass it around, pass it around, pass it around, outside of the arc. D. Brown takes a shot under 5 seconds, under duress. Is that the plan? No. Is that what happened? Yeah. 19 seconds left. Pass it around, 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 round the outside arc. D. Brown takes a 3-point shot under duress. Was that the plan? Of course not. Was that how it was executed? Sadly, yes. Terrible, terrible execution in the final minute. Not winning basketball. And I'm not going to be one of these people that piles on the Illini because I am as diehard as they come. I just think there's some things that they need to work on, including handling pressure. I mean, come on, guys. We've got 2 seniors on this team. D doesn't have to be the all-everything. There's other guys who can score, as evidenced by Rich McBride's 3 half a second after the buzzer. D shooting with less than a second left on the shot clock from 25 feet out is not a play. Let's not run that anymore, yeah? 2 more points. No timeouts left. 2.2 seconds to play. Under 4 media timeout. Is that the weirdest thing you've ever seen? The media timeouts are 16, under 16, under 12, under 8, under 4. And there was one called for obvious reasons. There was no stoppages to play. Under 4, it was 2.2 seconds left. It was just weird. And I think that was the only time I've ever been happy that there was a TV timeout because the Illini got to draw up an extra play. Ordinarily, TV timeouts are excessive and quite disruptive in college basketball. But in this game, it almost very nearly helped Illinois pull out a victory they really thought they had. Finally, biggest point. Sean Pruitt. I was dead wrong about this guy. I don't know if I said it too often on my show, but I've said it in private a lot. Sean Pruitt, I thought, was just a dud early in the year. I thought he was worthless. I really thought Sean Pruitt wasn't going to be anything for the Illini in the future. I thought he was going to be a big guy that had one skill, that was being big. He's much more than that. In fact, I think Sean Pruitt's got it in him to be second team Big Ten by his senior year. He's a sophomore now, so he's got 2 years. I think he can do it. I think he can average 6-7 rebounds in the Big Ten, 12, 13, 14 points in the Big Ten. Maybe good enough for second team. That's important for the Illini, who are going to be looking for some interior scoring after Augustine's gone this year. So those are my 10 points from the game. Not all jaw-dropping comments, but certainly what I saw at the game, and hopefully and enhance your ability to digest what was, for all Illini fans, a very tough loss. Here we go, talking about conferences on the West Coast. I've got 6 of them. There are 6 of them. And we'll be talking first off about the Big Sky. Big Sky Conference. Ever heard of it before? Yeah, it exists, I promise. Why should you care about the Big Sky Conference? And I want to give you 3 points, because I figure no one wants to be drowned in statistics about a conference that they've never heard of. No one wants to be given a bunch of numbers or names of guys they'll never see on TV. So I'm going to give you 3 reasons why you should care about the Big Sky Conference. First, at the midway point of the season, the Big Sky Conference ranked number 1 in the country in three-point field goal percentage. So if you're watching a team with a lot of no-name players, what do you want to see? Dunks and three-pointers, right? So they shoot threes very, very well. In fact, better than anyone else at the midway point. That was 38% as a team, or as a conference, rather. So that's pretty impressive, I guess. That's 1 of 3. 2, Idaho State has this player named Slim Million. Never heard of him before myself until I did a little research. But Slim was given the nickname Slim in high school. He was 6'5", 160, which isn't all that slim, but he wasn't actually called Slim. He was called Slim Fast. He was so fast and quick on the court, they called him Slim Fast. He just run around people and score, and said it's a nice name. Doesn't really know if anyone even at his school knows his name now. His real name is actually Antoine Miguel. But Slim Fast is a pretty fun nickname, and this guy's got serious ego. If you ever get a chance to see or hear about him, instead of talking about how he worked really hard on his game to be a good player, he said, in referencing his growing up in New York City, I played the 2 guard. Everyone plays guard in New York. So that's why they have so many good guards. Everyone is a guard in New York. Interesting. Finally, another thought on Slim Million. He said, yeah, quote, well, I just found out last week I was a walk-on, and I wasn't actually recruited. Okay, this is a senior, right? So this would have been his junior year after JUCO. I was told in junior college that Idaho State, Southern Illinois, and San Francisco were interested, and the Idaho State assistant, Coach Jay McMillan, just kept calling me and keeping in touch. The other coaches called maybe once a week. Idaho State was interested, but when he got on campus, no one even knew he was there. Is that not the weirdest thing? Can you imagine going to a college thinking you're on full scholarship and they say, oh yeah, you're a walk-on. We never even called you or recruited you. That's a bizarre situation that I'm thinking reflects his scatterbrain, but I don't know him personally, so I won't speak on that. And then finally, the best freshman scorer in the country is in the Big Sky. Probably never heard of him. I never had until about a week ago. Rodney Stuckey, Stuckey, for Eastern Washington, scores 24 points a game. Oh yeah, and his childhood hero, Michael Jordan? No. Snoop Dogg? No, not really. The Power Rangers, his childhood hero. Grand. That's good stuff. The Big Sky. Now I'm talking about the Mountain West. Mountain West is a conference you may or may not hear much about, but they're actually pretty solid, somewhere in the top 7 or 8 nationally in terms of RPI, which is kind of how they gauge how good a conference is. The Mountain West has some teams of note, most of which are fallen off of late, though. You had Utah really strong the last few years. I think they're kind of weaker this year than usual. You've also got New Mexico, Air Force, UNLV, TCU, BYU, Colorado State, Wyoming, and San Diego State. Why should you even care about the Mountain West, you ask? Well, first of all, Steve Fisher's there. Yeah, Steve Fisher. Remember him? The leader of the Fab Five. He coaches at San Diego State. He's going with an innovative philosophy. Maybe you thought about the way to get a good team is to recruit good juniors and seniors in high school. No, he decided that's not the way to go. He's going to wait until someone becomes discontent and also scorned at their original college, and then he's going to start recruiting them then. So let's just wait until they start getting frustrated with their team and their coach hates them and all the fans boo them. Then we'll recruit them. Brilliant. So Steve Fisher has brought in the last 2 years, mind you, 2 years, he's brought in 6 transfers from Division I schools. That's not JUCO transfers. That's Division I transfers. Lorenzo Wade, Louisville transfer, will be playing next year at a school near you. Muhammad Abakur, Florida transfer. Tony Bland, Syracuse transfer. Wesley Stokes, remember him? That dreadlock bandit on Mizzou? You remember him. Played on Mizzou, transferred to SDSU. He's since graduated, or no longer with the program. Travis Hanauer, Arizona transfer. And Chris Manker, Oregon State transfer. Again, 6 people played on Division I teams such as Illinois, Michigan, Michigan State type teams. Later found on San Diego State, out in the beautiful San Diego area, playing for a school that surely is concerned about their academics, right, Steve? Okay, after all that bashing of Steve Fisher, let me give Fisher some credit. He attracts talent. That's certainly a skill, right? I mean, it does take some skill to draw in these big egos. They're drawn to him for some reason, so congratulations on that level. For example, 2 of the top 3 scorers in the conference are guys he recruited out of high school, not transfers, which I gave him quite a bit of hell for. He's got Brandon Heath, scoring guard, shooting guard-ish. He's also got a post player, Marcus Slaughter. 2 guys, big-time players that you might get a chance to see in the NCAA tournament, because I really think San Diego State is the class of this league and could get in with an at-large. More than likely will win the conference tournament, though, and get in that way with an automatic bid. Finally, the last thing, not necessarily the most important, but the last thing of the 3 reasons you should care about the Mountain West Conference, some of the best home courts west of the Mississippi exist in this very conference. Think of the Pit, New Mexico. Have you ever seen that on TV? Just great Monday night basketball. For instance, tonight you've got Gonzaga at St. Mary's. But 11 o'clock Central Time, ESPN, that's the best time to check out most of the teams I'll be talking about tonight, because they're not going to be on TV very often otherwise in this area. So the Pit, New Mexico, great fans, awesome to watch on TV. Air Force, second in home court winning percentage in the last 2 years. They were third until Illinois lost to Penn State. Now they're second because they were 37-1, only behind Gonzaga in the last 2 years, winning percentage at home. Other good schools for college basketball home courts in this conference. Got Wyoming, just rabid fans there for some reason. I don't know why. Just really rabid fans in a weird state to have college basketball being so popular. Utah, last 10 years, when they were good, had good fans, good following, and for good reason. And then overall, when you're traveling on 9-hour flights every other weekend, there's going to be really tough road games in the conference. Like, it doesn't really matter where you're going. You're riding on a plane twice, getting on and off, layovers, 9-hour, 10-hour flights. It's going to be pretty tough to play basketball in the next couple of hours. And that's kind of the status quo in the Mountain West. So there's your 2 conferences. Up next, I'll be talking with Matt Dearman on the WAC. That's the Western Athletic Conference, of course. You knew that. Matt Dearman. We'll be talking about the WAC in about a couple of minutes. Take a quick commercial break. If you have anything you'd like to talk about concerning West Coast teams, this is anyone in the Mountain region, also in the Pacific time zone, give me a call. The number here is 217-935-8100. 217-935-8100. You're listening to the Layup Line on ESPN Radio 95.9 FM.
Dynagraphics Fast Impressions, home of the UTEC 150. See them today for full-color banners and full-color vehicle graphics. Dynagraphics Fast Impressions, your digital printing specialist. See them for digital color or black and white copies. Dynagraphics Fast Impressions, simply all your printing and graphics in one place. Dynagraphics Fast Impressions, outstanding service and on budget every time. When you need a durable, beautiful, affordable banners, contractor yard signs, full-color vehicle graphics, digital color or black and white copies or business displays, it's Dynagraphics Fast Impressions. Call 876-9950. Dynagraphics Fast Impressions. When you want it right the first time, simply all your printing and graphics in one place. Call them today at 876-9950 or stop by and visit them in their state-of-the-art facility at 3220 North Woodford Avenue in Decatur. Dynagraphics Fast Impressions, a proud supporter of Millikan University sports.
The John Warner Bank, a great bank with great people like Vicki Morrow. A Clinton native, Vicki has been with the John Warner Bank for 17 years. When she's not working, the IGA branch manager enjoys shopping and during the summer, camping with her husband and visits from their 2 grown sons. Next time you're in the Clinton IGA, stop by and say hello to Vicki at the John Warner Bank. Vicki Morrow, one of the people that make the John Warner Bank a great bank. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender. Do you enjoy high-impact, high-intensity sports? Then Bloomington Extreme Football is just for you. Season tickets for Bloomington's first United Indoor Football team start at $70 per seat. The inaugural season begins on March 25th with the first home game on April 1st at the U.S. Cellular Coliseum in downtown Bloomington. Season tickets include tickets to all 8 home games, guaranteed giveaways, priority on purchasing playoff tickets, and much more. Call 309-434-2843 or visit our website at www.uscellularcoliseum.com for additional information. Single game tickets can be purchased after March 1st online at www.bloomingtonextreme.com. Don't miss out on the extreme action. Call our office today to reserve your seat. Club seats are $750 annually. Include season tickets for extreme football and hockey. First priority to purchase tickets to any other Coliseum event before it goes on sale to the public. In-seat waiter-waitress service, access to club lounge, and guaranteed giveaways. Club seats are almost sold out. Get yours today.
Paul Sr. from Orange County Choppers didn't let anyone get in the way of his dreams.
Basically, I was always told that I would never amount to anything. I was always told that I'd be a failure. If I had listened to what people told me, I really wouldn't be anywhere today. Failure is not an option. You need to dig down inside yourself and make it happen. Don't let anybody tell you that something's impossible. You can do anything if you put your mind to it.
This message brought to you by the U.S. Air Force, because we know the value of hard work and determination.
Welcome back to the Layup Line on ESPN Radio 95.9 FM. It is the Layup Line up until 7:30. Again, girls regional basketball action comes your way 7:30 p.m. tonight. But now I'm talking to Matt Dearman on the WAC. That's the Western Athletic Conference. This is the Associate Sports Editor of Tech Talk. That's their student newspaper. Thanks so much for joining me tonight, Matt.
No problem.
Could you talk a little bit about, first of all, the WAC, specifically your team, Louisiana Tech, and how they're playing this year?
Well, Tech's doing pretty good in the WAC right now. We're sitting at 7-3 after we had a disappointing weekend. Lost a couple of games to Nevada and Utah State, which sits us at 7-3 is a three-way tie. With those three teams, Tech, Nevada, and Utah State are all sitting at number 1 in the WAC right now with that record.
And Paul Millsap, who I'm really interested in because I haven't got a chance to see him, but I've heard a lot about him. Just an amazing rebounder, I guess?
Yes, sir. I mean, right now he is he's leading the country for the unprecedented third year. He's won the rebounding title the past 2 years, and right now I think he's averaging 12.6 rebounds a game.
Just ridiculous. And he's probably going to win it for the third year in a row, which is just unprecedented, right?
Yes, it's happened, I think, 5 times since somebody's won it twice, and this would be the first time anybody's won it 3 times.
What are the best teams you think in the conference in terms of just drawing great fans out to their teams?
As far as drawing fans, it's definitely Fresno. I mean, they may not be the best team in the conference, but right now they're drawing over 10,000 fans a game. And I'm talking to our Tech coach, Keith Richard. He thinks that that's the most intimidating place to play. They just got a great crowd there.
I read one of your articles about getting out to see Paul Millsap, and the last opportunity people had to see him, it would probably be in the last couple of home games this year. I mean, he's a junior, but he's leaving early, most think. I mean, why is it they don't have great fan support at the games down there?
Historically, Tech hasn't had a real strong basketball team. We've struggled with fighting with in-state schools for local talent, and then just not necessarily getting a bunch of talent elsewhere. And so Tech basketball hasn't had a real strong following. Now the girls, you remember the Lady Techsters have been pretty good in the past, but the boys just haven't had a real strong following.
And then earlier in the year, Millsap was pretty well regarded around the country, but he's starting to get some national press now as midseason All-American for SI, and also other teams and other organizations starting to pile on and see what he can do. I mean, it's really hard for a guy like that to get exposed, though, isn't it?
What was that?
Isn't it hard for him to get exposed at a school of your size?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's a little more difficult. A lot of times, one of the biggest things I think he deals with is he'll put up 15 rebounds a game, but people, we're not playing the Dukes and the North Carolinas in the world. He doesn't necessarily get that recognition, but it is good to see him finally starting to get the credit that I feel like he's earned the past 2 years.
Louisiana Tech was up by 2 games in the conference till this most recent weekend. Do you think it's going to be demoralizing for them to fall back as quickly as they did, as far back as they have?
No, I don't think so. I was talking to Coach Richard earlier today, and I mean, again, the two teams that we lost to are also the two teams that were tied for first team in the conference, and Nevada and Utah State are both very good teams. And we played poorly against Utah State. I think in the first half we shot 35% from the field, and that happens every now and then. You just have an off game, but I think the guys still feel pretty good about their chances of going in and taking care of business again this next week.
If you're an outsider, such as myself or my listeners perhaps, who in the conference is worth seeing play? Not necessarily teams, but players. Are there any stars in the conference aside from Paul Millsap at Louisiana Tech?
Yeah, the one that comes to mind automatically is Nick Fazakis. He over in Nevada.
Yeah.
I mean, he's leading, other than Paul leading in rebounding, of course. This is I've got to hold on some stats. He is the WAC's leading scorer. He's got 23.3 points a game, and then he's right behind Paul's numbers in rebounding. He's got close to 10, if not at it. And then seeing him play last week, he's just a great player on the court.
Do you see him also going pro after this year?
He's a junior, so he has a chance to stay around for his next season, and I'm not really sure if he could leave or not, but I think he can make it at the NBA level. It's just I'm not sure if he'll leave early or not.
Right. How about Elijah Ingram? I remember him at St. John's, but now he's turned up at New Mexico State down there for Reggie Theus. Is he a pretty good player?
I haven't gotten to see them play a whole lot. Tech hasn't actually played. Well, we did play them at home, I believe. But honestly, I haven't heard a whole lot about him. I know he's kind of just the middle. He's number 8 in the conference in scoring, I believe. And his numbers they're not at the top of the conference. I haven't seen him play a whole lot.
Do you see any of the teams getting in with an at-large bid, or is it this one team conference this year?
Historically, I would definitely say that it's been a one-team conference. Now, right now, you have to, with the WAC tournament being in Nevada, you have to say that Nevada is the favorite to win that tournament and get the WAC spot in the big dance. But as of right now, Tech's looking at, according to the bracketology on ESPN, Tech is looking at an at-large bid, so we could have two teams in the tournament this year.
Yeah, I really thought they had a shot at it. I mean, those last two losses are rough, though. I mean, you've got to go. You can't lose more than 2-3 games in conference if you're going to win from what I would say is kind of below top tier, but above mid-major size conference. Mm-hmm. What do you see as players that are looking to get better in the conference? Do you see any young players that might be dragging this conference into national notoriety in a couple of years? Some
young players you're talking about?
Yeah.
New Mexico State's got Tyrone Nelson, who's a sophomore, and then also at Idaho, Tanoris Shepard. They're both sophomores, young players that are putting up some big numbers. Tyrone's averaging close to 20 points a game, and he's got 9.6 rebounds a game. So he's putting up some big numbers to be young. So I would look for him in the next couple of years to be probably the player in the WAC to look at.
How many articles have you put out this year on men's basketball?
How many articles?
Yeah.
Couple of weeks. I would say we probably put out 10, 15.
And what do you see as driving storylines in the WAC this year overall?
The WAC's always been a defensive conference. If you look, even our game with Nevada, those are, again, two of the top teams in the WAC, at halftime, I believe the score was 26-25. A lot of defense being played, a lot of rebounds from everywhere, really. Not a whole lot of scoring going on, but you've got a lot of speed, especially places like New Mexico State, and just defense, I think, is the name of the game.
I was just talking about the Mountain West before I gave you a call. Is there something to this travel time you guys have to put in? I mean, you're coming from Louisiana Tech. You're playing teams out, and obviously you already mentioned Nevada, San Diego, Utah. I mean, that's all over the west part of the country.
Oh, yes. I mean, that's if you talk to any coach in any sport from Tech, that's the biggest thing they deal with is just road travel. For one thing, our New Mexico State's our closest opponent. So we,
Are you serious?
Yeah. They're our closest. So actually, we struggle getting any fan support for away games. And then when you travel to places like Idaho, I mean, that's near Canada. And then to play a couple of these games a week, it's really tough on the athletes. I
can imagine. And so academics become almost a road trip as well. I mean, you're not doing a whole lot of in-class study when you're on the road twice a week to other time zones.
Oh, no.
Do you see any teams in the conference that are really playing above their heads right now that you think just aren't that good?
Playing above where they should be playing?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I hesitate to say this because they continue winning. Utah State just doesn't seem like they have the personnel necessarily to be beating the teams they are, to be up there with Nevada and the way we're playing. But then, I mean, I guess you could say that about us too. And then Fresno, I feel like, is a better team than the numbers they put up. I mean, all these games that have been played in the WAC so far have been really close games that could go either way.
All right, so Louisiana Tech, how's their schedule the rest of the way?
The rest of the way, we've got a big one coming up. We've got Boise State Wednesday, I believe, and then this next Monday we've got our second game with Nevada, which is going to be in Reno. So that game should be a pretty big game as far as deciding who's going to be on top of the WAC. And other than that, we played Utah State twice. And again, from where we're sitting, we pretty much got to win out the rest of our WAC games to stay on top. So every game's a big game, but that Nevada is going to be the one to watch.
All right, in terms of the Bracket Buster, this is something coming up February 18th across the country, and you're playing a team that's really got some regional interest here in Illinois and Southern Illinois. What do you see in terms of what does that game mean to a team like Louisiana Tech that hasn't been on national TV very often?
I mean, it's a great opportunity for our guys like we talked about Paul to get recognition.
Right.
Because even with the number of teams been putting up, he was just named midseason All-American, but still he's not a name that many people know. And when you play a good team like that on national television, you're going to get the numbers of people watching that normally would never see Louisiana Tech play. So it's just a great opportunity for our guys to kind of show themselves as a contender that deserves to be in the big tournament.
Matt Dearman from telling me about the WAC, but also a Louisiana Tech guy, associate sports editor for Tech Talk. Thanks a lot for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. That's Matt Dearman, and I really appreciate him joining me tonight. Love to hear about the WAC. It's one of those conferences you don't get a chance to hear about unless you're there or unless you read up a lot. I mean, how often is the WAC on TV? I try to watch as much college basketball as possible, and I don't imagine there's a lot of people that watch more than I do. I don't think I've seen more than 2 basketball games from that conference all year. The only way you're going to see the WAC is if you watch 11 p.m. on Monday night on Big Monday, or if you watch perhaps a late 5, 6, 7 o'clock Saturday night basketball game on ESPN. It just happens to be on. I mean, it's not a very well publicized conference, and that's through no fault of their own. It's kind of just one of those things where you can only show so many games, and the big power money conferences are dominating the television scene right now. When we come back on this show, The Layup Line, we're going to be talking with Daniel Novenson. You might remember the name, or you'll definitely remember the voice. Talked with him, I want to say week 2, week 3 of The Layup Line. Right early on, I talked with him about Stanford basketball and the Sixth Man, their cheering section. This time, a different focus. Going to be talking Pac-10 hoops. Talking about the Pac-10, where they're at, where they've come from this season. I think really the national respect was low, and it's starting to pick up a little bit as they develop some depth and also get what could be 3, 4, 5 teams into the NCAA this year, which was, I think, really unexpected early on. So quick break, back with more. Again, if you want to give me a call, 217-935-8100. Talking West Coast hoops tonight on The Layup Line. You're listening to ESPN Radio, 95.9 FM.
You bring the family. Let the Rivermen get you out of your seats. There is no better entertainment value for the entire family.
Turn away a shot. They score!
Than the hard-hitting, fast-paced, highly skilled AAA hockey action at Carver Arena this season.
Left circle. Shoot! He scored!
And the entertaining circus-like family atmosphere. Tickets start at just $10.50 per seat. Sit on the glass and ice level for just $17.50. This season of Rivermen hockey has never been more exciting.
Mike Klumek on the tip. Troy Riddle, a short-handed goal!
Tuesday night, Bring the family and head on down to Carver Arena for exciting Rivermen hockey action as they take on the North Division Syracuse Crunch at 7.
Johnny DeSalvatore wins it for Peoria!
For individual tickets, group tickets, or more information, call 676-1040 or visit rivermen.net. Peoria Rivermen Hockey. Peoria today. NHL tomorrow.
Duty. Neighbors united for the common good. Honor. The faith that dedication to a noble cause is right, just, and good. Country, a vow to support our nation's people during desperate times. Duty, honor, country. We're the Army National Guard. Call 1-800-GO-GUARD.
In the Army National Guard, you can.
Sponsored by the Illinois National Guard. Aired by the Illinois Broadcasters Association and this station.
I'm Toni Braxton. Nothing to wear? Let me make a suggestion. You need something to wear every day, something powerful that makes a fashion statement and feels good. It's simple. Wear red and go red for women. I've gone red because heart disease is the #1 killer of women in America. The #1 killer, and most women don't even know it. I've gone red because heart disease runs in my family. I've gone red because I want you and all women to know the facts about heart disease. I want you to talk with your doctor and learn about the risk factors of heart disease, such as smoking and inactivity. I want you to know your numbers, your cholesterol, blood pressure, weight, and glucose levels, and watch them closely. I want you to know what you can do to help prevent heart disease. I've gone red. You should too. Nothing to wear? I don't think so. Make a statement. Join Go Red for Women, a campaign to rally all women to fight heart disease. Call the American Heart Association at 1-888-MY-HEART.
From the time we enter school as children, we're taught about the power of reading, about its importance in keeping us connected to the world around us. If you have difficulty seeing words on a page, that's no reason to stop reading. Talking Books is a free program from the Library of Congress. If you have trouble reading normal-size print like books or magazines, you could qualify for the free Talking Books program. When you subscribe, the Talking Books and a special cassette player will be delivered to you for free. As soon as you finish one, simply mail it back and order more from the thousands of available titles. The program and the postage are free. Call toll-free 1-888-657-READ. That's 1-888-657-READ. Choose from a vast selection of books and magazines. Call 1-888-657-READ. 1-888-657-7323. A message from the National Library Service for the Blind and Physically Handicapped.
Welcome back to the Layup Line. My name is Andrew Force, and moving along in the West Coast, looking now from the WAC to the Pac-10. I mentioned earlier on in the year, we talked with Daniel Novitzson, and returning with him, getting a better perspective on the West Coast, Pac-10 specifically. Thanks so much for joining me, Daniel, the managing editor of sports at the Stanford Daily, once again.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you today.
So, I'm curious. I mean, the Pac-10s, man, I've talked about this with several people on the show, and it's just hard for us in the Illinois Midwest specifically to watch Pac-10 basketball when all we get really is 1-2 games a week on some grainy Fox Sports Net.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're media, so I'm sure you guys got like little DirecTV dishes, and for
Yeah, right.
I mean, I have the same problem as all you guys. I grew up in Michigan. I still live, in Michigan. If I want to see Stanford over the break, like, you better hope they're playing on ESPN or something, because otherwise there's no way. And I mean, that's a big deal. They have a contract the Pac-10 does with Fox Sports Net, which is, I mean, a much inferior contract to the ESPN contract, and people are clamoring for it to be changed. People think that's a big part of the reason why the Pac-10 doesn't get enough respect nationally.
Yeah, okay, so let's look at Stanford in terms of recently. I mean, they started out the year 4-6, and in my eyes, I don't know about around there, but it felt like they had really let down the Bay Area with what many thought was a team top 10 nationally.
Yeah, I mean, coming into the season, 12th, 13th nationally, 3 all-conference returning seniors. I mean, any team that returns 3 all-conference seniors, I don't care if you're in the Big Sky or, one of those little conferences that gets run over every March. I mean, you deserve to be in the top 25 just for that alone. And some injury problems, and just this team under Trent Johnson, who's a good coach towards the end of the year, he just can't get people out the gate. Last year, the team started 6-7. So this year, when the team started 4-6, I mean, there was disappointment, but there was still the feeling like they're digging themselves a mighty deep hole, and they have. But, I mean, that things would turn around. The question was more of, would it be in time?
So from that 4-6, now they've gone their last 7 or 8 games.
7 of the last 8,
okay.
6 or 5 in a row, something like that. It's been an incredible ride.
And then the only loss they had was arguably the toughest place to play in the conference at Arizona in front of 14-6. I mean, that's a game that you can almost forgive for losing.
No, and I mean, that Arizona game went to overtime, and if anything, there were a lot of opportunities we had to win that. I mean, between any game that's close, the refs are going to play a big part. Any game that's that close, you can point to missed opportunities. So, I mean, that was truly a game that could have gone either way. But Stanford recently has come up on the, positive side of all those close games.
Could you talk
after that Arizona loss?
Right. Could you talk a little bit about the Washington game? I mean, I read a little bit about it, but I think
it was just an incredible. I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's just how exciting it was. Honestly, probably one of the best games one of the best finishes I'll ever see in person. And I do this, every day. I've seen a lot of basketball. Right. So after the Arizona loss, Stanford goes fights out a road win, which was their first road win at that point against Arizona State. So there was an important road win. And then they come back for Washington State, kind of a bottom feeder in the conference, plays good defense always, grind out that win. So they got a little momentum going. And then here comes Washington, top 10 team. And that was going to be the big test. Everybody knew. Everybody circled it on the calendars. And Washington comes in. It's just a back-and-forth battle all day. Chris Hernandez, senior point guard, gets 2 fouls early, so he's forced to sit out. So Stanford trails, is fighting from behind the whole second half, manages to claw to a 61-60 lead with about a minute to go. Washington fights back, chips in a layup, so now it's 62-61. Stanford's going to play for, the last possession type of thing. So 10 seconds left, Andrew. You with me right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 10 seconds left. Our freshman point guard, which is another real questionable decision. You have 3 all Pac-10 seniors on your team, and you turn to the freshman point guard in the clutch. I don't know. But you know what? That was the call. And he panicked. He forced in a pass. So it's a turnover, and we figure, it's all over. They foul. Washington goes to the free throw line. They make their 2 free throws. There's 2.1 seconds left, and we have to go full court, down by 3. I mean, so you figure, you try the Christian Laettner play.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's pretty much what we drew up. They called it a home run. Our 6'9" freshman forward inbounded it to one of those Matt Harris, who is quietly going to be a first rounder in the NBA. He is just Ike Diagu came out of Arizona State last year, and everybody's like, "Who is this guy?" He went in the top 10, and he's tearing up the NBA.
Yeah.
And everybody thought that was way too high. Everybody was calling him, a bust and all that. And Harris is going to be the same way. I mean, Harris is a real sleeper. So on a national scale. But Harris receives the pass, passes it off to Chris Hernandez, the senior point guard. And Hernandez sees the Washington defense, sees they're going to set up the foul to put him on the line to shoot 2 free throws because you're down by 3. What good is 2 free throws going to do?
Right.
And so he just forces up a shot right as the guy comes to foul him. And he gets fouled. They have to review it. It's all dramatic. 0.2 seconds left on the clock. And, you have to keep in mind during all this, 7, 8 timeouts are getting used by both coaches. I mean, it literally took 45 minutes for him to set the line and shoot his 3 free throws. He shoots 85% on the season, so, I mean, that's pretty darn good, and he nailed them all.
Wow.
And so once it got to overtime, I mean, it was over before it even began. There was just such a clutch and dramatic ending.
Got a little short snippet of Bobby Jones. This was with the media after that game. This is what he had to say about it. And Bobby Jones from Washington.
Bobby Jones feels sorry for himself?
He's got a totally different perspective than you, obviously, but I don't think he's too negative on you guys.
It just seemed like everybody did something wrong at that play. I mean, I didn't play the way I should have when they set the pick on me. Whoever set the pick on me should have probably made a better play on the ball. I don't even know if somebody was on the out-of-bounds person. Maybe they didn't put enough pressure. So, I mean, you can look at a little bit of everybody leading to that. Maybe we all could have did something just to delay it for half a second. Then maybe that foul he wouldn't even got that close to even to fouling him. So, I mean, it's crazy when you really think about it that hard.
So he's obviously got a much less excited response to it.
Yeah, but it's not. You know what? You cut off the quote right before the best part of it.
The
he goes, I've played basketball, 18, 19, 20 years, and this is the first time I've ever felt sorry for myself, is what he says.
Yeah, that is a good line. And then here's a little snippet at the end about how his friends, stopped talking to him.
And then 3 texts, 10 minutes later saying, I didn't know y'all lost. I turned the channel, or I turned it back, and I saw that y'all lost. It's crazy. So, I mean, it was just, it was crazy, man. It was a crazy day. It was a crazy trip.
So we got those text messages about, hey, good game, congratulations. After he had lost, didn't even realize that he had gone overtime and dropped the game. But
that's funny.
Yeah, that's just an amazing game. I wish that I'd got a chance to see it, but certainly Stanford can bank on those kind of wins as they get momentum build here. And
they need them.
Yeah.
And the game right after Washington, I would say, was even more dramatic than that. Chris, again, you'd think like somebody had double team him. I don't know. I don't think the coaching in the Pac-10 is all that great. But Chris is guarded one-on-one. We're down by 2:11 seconds left. He swishes an NBA length three with a defender charging in his face.
Jeez.
The guy is just money.
Wow. And this is a senior point guard for them, right?
Senior point guard. He's not, he's a college star. In a year where you got Morrison and Reddick, scoring 40 a night, he's going to fly under the radar. But he should be like, I don't know, second, third team All-American this year probably, something like that, I would expect. And I don't think he's got a great NBA future ahead of him, but, God, it's fun to watch him play now, you know?
All right, looking at some other teams around the conference, any perspective you have on them is well appreciated. Oregon, for example, they've lost their last 5 games. They're 10-13. What is with this team?
They got a lot of talent. They got Malik Harrison out of my hometown of Detroit. That kid cannot be stopped, but the front court's a bit of a question, and just their mental composition coming against Stanford, a game that they led. They were at home. They deserved to win. They had all rights to that game. They turned it over 6 times in the final 4 minutes. Just stuff like that. They've lost 4 of their last 5. That's kind of a team that, pardon the analogy because they're Ducks, but they're kind of dead in the water right now.
Nice. How about Washington State? How can they beat Washington 2 times in the same year?
Washington State, that's the thing. Dick Bennett, coach at Wisconsin. From the Midwest, both of us, we remember, Michigan, Illinois going up against those teams. Always stingy defense. You remember that one Final Four? It was like 19-17 at halftime or something like that?
Yeah, it was gross.
Yeah, and it's the same thing he's doing. He doesn't have the athletes he used to have, and he's going to retire, and his son's going to actually take over.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But, it's a good scheme. It's good defense. They'll score 50 on a good night, but, anytime you play defense like that, the cliche says you have a way to win. And Washington's, for as great as Washington is offensively, their defense is ranked dead last in the country.
Is that right?
Not in the country, dead last in the conference.
Yeah.
So, for Wazoo to get them twice in a rivalry game like that, surprising, but not that surprising.
I know Washington lost quite a bit of talent, and obviously Nate Robinson's a big-time player, but are they really a 5-5 Pac-10 team? Is that how bad they are?
I don't know. They got a ton of talent, but I don't know. I just feel like Romar's a bit in over his head. I feel like Ben Howland at Cal gets a lot of national. Well, I don't want to say it on the air, but he gets a lot of hate nationally. I feel like he's a much better coach than he is given credit for, and I feel Romar's kind of the opposite. I don't know. I feel like everybody points to him when they got the 1 seed last year. What a great program, blah blah blah. But they have so much talent up in that state, and Washington gets, the lion's share of it. Gonzaga, Washington State fight for the leftovers, and I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a team that, A, plays defense, B, is poised under the stretch. At that Stanford game, those players were yelling at each other in the final minutes. We were distracting them in 6-man, just not, generally kind of marks of a real poorly coached team.
Yeah. Looking at Arizona, they're just devaluing the basketball shorts I bought of theirs a couple of years ago every day. It's ridiculous. I'll never be talked out of believing that Lute Olson and Charles Grodin are the same guy, but I think that his coaching is well below his broadcasting abilities.
I don't know. Lute Olson, you got a Salim Stoudemire caught up in the J.J. Redick love fest. Salim Stoudemire was quietly the best true guard in the country last year.
Yeah.
He shot 50% from the long and that's the way you can tell, who's like a casual fan and who's a real fan. Real fans knew Salim was playing out of his mind last year. And Illinois fans don't need me to tell them this. They saw that game against Arizona in the NCAA tournament. What was it, 96, 95, something like that?
Yeah, and he was hitting everything. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, he was absolutely incredible. And when you lose a guy like that, and they have a lot of youth behind them, Arizona will be back. They keep on signing top-ranked recruiting classes and everything. So Arizona and Washington are always going to be atop the league in terms of talent.
I think that Mustafa Shakur is really one of those few players in college basketball at the Division I big-time conferences that has regressed, it seems like. He and Jimmy McKinney of Missouri have, in my eyes, almost gone backwards from where they started their freshman year.
I don't know. And a lot of that, again, not to draw everything back to Salim Stoudemire, but when you got a guy on the outside shooting 50%, it makes it a little bit easier for you.
Stanford, before the year, you mentioned, had 3 great players returning, but nationally, there's only 3 Pac-10 players on the Wooden midseason list. You've got Hassan Adams at Arizona, Jordan Farmar at UCLA, and then Brandon Roy at WashU.
Oh, Afala wasn't on there was a big thing. Afala's playing for UCLA, playing out of his mind.
Yeah.
I don't know, probably a better player than Farmar right now. But, I mean, again, this is, perceived strength of conferences and whatnot. I mean, the ACC is having a really strong year, and they always seem to have really strong years. But, I don't know, count up the number of teams and number of players in the SEC, and I bet you it's a lot more than 3. And is the SEC that much stronger of a conference than the Pac-10? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, they've said really this year Big 12, SEC down. Pac-10 I thought was down for a while, but now that Stanford's re-emerging, you almost have 4, maybe 5 teams with legitimate cases, Cal included.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough talent there. Cal on the rebound, too. Cal and Stanford got a huge tilt coming up this Thursday. I mean, those are 2 programs that a lot of people have left for dead, but they're kind of both up on the rise right now.
So what do you see in the future for Stanford? Do you think this is a team with high aspirations in terms of the tournament, or are they just going to be happy that they rebounded their season?
Oh, you mean this year? And
yeah.
You mean like in the future? In the future? Oh, because in the future, you got these 2 top 10 recruits coming next year.
Those
I mean,
twins?
the future looks pretty darn good. These 2 6'9" twins out of Fresno.
Yeah.
And Stanford came in second to Spencer Hawes, who signed with UW. I mean, that would have been 3 near 7-footers in the same class. I mean, that would have put the Fab Five to shame,
Yeah. I remember.
But, I mean, the future, the far-off future looks pretty good. And Trent Johnson's doing a really good job recruiting. His game day coaching isn't quite there yet. But, I don't know. I mean, this weekend and the next weekend are going to be 2 huge weekends. This weekend, Stanford plays at Cal, at Gonzaga. And, I mean, all the various projections you see on the Internet, they're RPIs and kind of the mid-80s, but they've been real hot recently. And so I kind of see them bubble in, the last team in or the last team out, something like that. ESPN has them as, like, one of the, first 4 teams out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, these are kind of make-or-break games. I think you got to figure if you can split Gonzaga and Cal both on the road, I mean, you're doing better than treading water. You're doing better than holding your own. And then just kind of hold out at home. Arizona comes visiting. UCLA comes visiting. And Stanford's just 1 game behind UCLA for the Pac-10 regular season title right now. So, I mean, for now at least, the title runs through Maples. And anytime, you're in February and you still control your own destiny, I don't think, you can be too upset.
Yeah, that's true. That's amazing turnaround for Stanford. And thanks so much. That's, again, Daniel Novice, managing editor of sports at the Stanford Daily. Thanks a lot for joining me again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to talking to you as we come close to the tournament time.
Yep, it's going to be exciting. I'll talk to you soon, and coming up on the top of the hour, have a good couple of articles, as always fun to follow your stuff out on the West Coast.
All right, thank you.
Again, that's Daniel Novenson. I love talking to him, as you can just feel the energy coming through him. He emanates the excitement of the Pac-10. It's hard, again, as I say, to get perspective on that being from the Midwest. So really have a lot of fun talking with him. A couple other guys I've talked to earlier in the year, you can kind of feel that from them, and you get a sense of what's going on, so much better so than you would just reading a couple of articles online, as I like to do, to follow teams I can't see on TV. Finally, Big West. Got a couple more conferences to look at. Big West, do it real quick for you. Big West, what teams are even in the Big West? Well, you've got Cal State Fullerton, Cal State Northridge, Pacific, UC Irvine, UC Riverside, UC Santa Barbara, Cal Poly, and Long Beach State. Probably one of the least interesting conferences in the country, and the only reason I'm covering them is, as I told you early on, this is a show focused on West Coast teams you're not going to get to see very often, and you've probably not even seen a Big West team all year long. The one player I really like in this conference is Christian Mariker. This guy is 6'9", 240, kind of a European player in that he can shoot outside, but he's also got that, the ability to box in down low, pretty big rebounder. This is a guy that 6'9", Swedish player, as I mentioned, European. He's really got an interesting skill set that if you get a chance to see him, which I don't know. I mean, you could see him in the conference tournament, but other than that, this is just not a well-publicized league. Real small, and as you heard mentioned from Daniel, this is just a conference that gets stepped on every year in the tournament from the selection committee. Coming up at 7 o'clock, pregame coming up, pre-game anyway, for the Clinton Girls Regional Basketball game. Going to be talking David Mim. As you know, always bracket style coming up 7 o'clock right after your Sports Center update. You're listening to ESPN Radio 95.9 FM.
ESPN Radio Sports Center. John Stashower, he's not on ESPN all that often, but 2 chances this week to watch maybe the best college basketball player of the nation. Gonzaga's Adam Morrison neck and neck with Duke's J.J. Redick for Player of the Year. The Bulldogs will host Stanford in the Saturday night primetime game tonight, midnight Eastern, hosting St. Mary's. Morrison leads the nation in scoring, 29 points per game. Big Monday has begun, as always, with the Big East. 2 of the new teams, Louisville and Cincinnati, both having a tough time of it in the new league, might not make the NCAA tournament there at halftime. Cincinnati leads 34-33. 9 Eastern, Texas goes for win number 20 at Texas Tech. Longhorns ranked 7th this week after UConn, Duke, Memphis, Villanova, Gonzaga, and Florida. George Washington is 18-1 and ranked 8th. Illinois and West Virginia round out the top 10. Iowa went from unranked to 19th. NBA second quarter.